Baruch.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, everyone, everywhere, depending on where and when you are watching. It is a mixed, sunny, dreary day outside my door. What's it looking like outside your door? So today, we're going to talk about a new holiday in town. Like they said, new sheriff in town. There's a new holiday in town, y'all, and it's called Juneteenth. And before Black folks could even get a good handle on what it's all about, the holiday has already been commercialized. I'm telling you. So today we're going to learn the real truth behind this new holiday from a man who has been fighting for the cause to make it official for years. Today's topic, Juneteenth, what it is and what it is not with Ronald Brown. I am your co-host, Ambassador Lisa Parks, and welcome to Africaonline TV. Now, if you're tuning in on Facebook and you want to join the conversation, come on over here to Zoom ID number 514-199-854. That's 514-199-854. And now for the editorial of the day with my co-host, Nia-san.
Greetings to everyone and welcome to this weekly discussion. Today is June the 12th, the 163rd day of the year 2002 on the Gregorian calendar. We have 202 days left until the end of the year. June 12, 2022 is the 24th Sunday of 2022 on the 25th week of 2022. This June 12th is the 85th day of spring. There are thus just 9 days, Ambassador Lisa, until summer. Of the more than 15 holidays and observances that fall on June 12, we have time and space for the following: Abused Women's and Children's Day, June 12, the second Sunday in June, that is. Multicultural African Child Awareness Day, also second Sunday of June. Race Unity Day on the second Sunday in June, and we'll have more on that. Trinity Sunday for the Christians, the first Sunday after Pentecost. World Against Child Labor Day, this day. Write to your father, that is, take note, write to your father 1 week before Father's Day. If there is no father, there's always somebody else, some significant other person to whom you can write. Give him a shout out. Of course, we'll be doing that some other time. And today is National Loving Day, whose name is not just interesting because it is about spreading love, but ironically, it also references the names of Mildred and Richard Loving. Did you remember? These are two people who fought against the laws confining them and everyone else from marrying interracially. A statement associated to National Loving Day and which we found very meaningful reads, quote, "The freedom to many, or rather, the freedom to marry, not many, the freedom to marry or not marry a person of another race resides with the individual and cannot be infringed by the state," end of quote. Many of us surely remember that that was unfortunately true at one point when it was against the law in this country to love or marry someone that was of a different race. But thanks to the persistence, the resistance, and call it the defiance of Mildred and Richard Loving, every June 12, we honor the United States Supreme Court's 1967 decision, which struck down laws in several states that banned interracial marriage. As already said, the Supreme Court decision was sparked by Loving versus Virginia, a court case involving Richard and Mildred Loving, an interracial couple from Virginia who married in 1958. We remember Mildred and Richard Loving today just as we discuss in order to raise awareness about and prepare ourselves to celebrate the Juneteenth national holiday. From our findings, the 4th of July may be and is the most widely known Independence Day celebration in the United States, but it is not the only important holiday commemorating African American, or rather American independence. Yes, Juneteenth, which is also called Emancipation Day, takes place on June the 19th every year and memorializes the official end of slavery in the United States. In fact, this important tradition has been celebrated since 1866, though it is only in recent years that it has begun getting more well-deserved attention. On June 17, 2021, President Joe Biden signed into law a bill that declares Juneteenth an official federal holiday, a decision Bernice King, CEO of the King Center and daughter of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. called, quote, an important moment of reckoning. But why did it take so long from 1866 till 2021 for such an important occurrence in the history of a country that seeks to build a more perfect union? Why did it take so long to give cognizance of the contributions of an important component of the population? We may no longer need to dwell on the why. What is important now is for us to seek the best ways that help us begin to appreciate and honor this holiday. That is why Africaonline Media Corporation is having this discussion a week in advance. It is our desire to help all of us to better understand the depth and meaning Juneteenth holds to all of us on this platform this afternoon, not just for Black communities, but also for all Americans and beyond, that is, and the world at large. It is indeed high time we start learning more about the history and importance of Juneteenth, along with the interesting traditions and celebrations that go with it. We can only do that if and when we raise awareness through courageous conversations like the one we are engaging in this afternoon, that Juneteenth will forever remain ingrained in our minds and hearts. At a time when racism and racial talk is once again rearing its ugly head, we better do something rather than asking heaven to do it for us. As one of my favorite songs emphasizes, by creating us, the great I am who am equipped us with the knowledge and the skills to perfect his handiwork by investing, not burying our talent. Yes, that one talent should be invested, not buried because the master is greedy. No, this master has never been and will never be greedy. So we all stand to gain when we recognize and celebrate those landmark moments that unite, not divide us. Juneteenth is a uniting moment. And when we think that the 4th of July may be the most widely celebrated holiday, we need to also think that Emancipation Day, Juneteenth, is even more important. While this important tradition has been celebrated since 1866, it is time for us to move forward, to celebrate, to think, to prepare, to repair, and to make sure that we face the future with confidence, with hope, with joy, knowing that Juneteenth is an important day, not just for our minds, not just for our hearts, but for every single strata that is in our bodies, every little strand that is in our bodies, that is to say. And on that note, I'm not going to tally a little more on this than usual. I will go over to the CEO of the Africaonline Media Corporation, Reverend Pam, and let her introduce us all to the program. Let us start the discussion. Over to you, Reverend Pam.
Thank you so much, Nia Song. You know, I mean, having somebody like you, we garner a lot of knowledge, we acquire a lot of stuff on this show, And let's just thank President Biden for making Juneteenth an official holiday. I actually thought it was already an official holiday until I heard your editorials. So Niason, thank you so much. You are a real gem. You better stay on this show till Jesus comes, because there's no duplicate for you. You know, nobody can fit your shoes. Nobody. That's the truth. On behalf of Africa Online Media Corporation, I want to welcome all our viewers around the world, those who are currently viewing on Facebook, those who are going to watch on YouTube and Facebook later on. My beautiful sister, Ambassador Lisa, in her African attire. She rocks the African attire more than me. Sister Deborah, thank you so much. Love your background. Sister Ruth just disappeared. I don't know where she went to.
She's there.
There she goes. Sister Ruth, I was talking about you before the show. Ambassador Lisa can fill you in. And I want to especially welcome our brother, Ronald Brown. We do have a brother, Ronald, on this show, but today's his birthday, and he decided that, well, since there was another Ronald coming on, he can take off today. Thank you so much, brother Ronald. I am excited to listen to you. My ears are perked up. They are itchy. I want to learn all that there is to learn about Juneteenth. Yes, we decided to do this show today so that next Sunday, when we are celebrating Juneteenth, we are more empowered, more enlightened, more enriched by the brain power that you're going to share today, the information you're going to share with us and our viewers. So you are welcome. But I would like to hand over to Ambassador Lisa, who is the producer of this show, to appropriately welcome you, Brother Ronald. Over to you, Madam Ambassador.
Thank you, Reverend Pam and Brother Niason. Our guest today is, this is June, and it's the month that we decided to feature our Black men and honor our Black men. And it would give me no greater pleasure than to read his entire bio, but I cannot for sake of time, because that would use up the entire time of the program. But I picked out some highlights that I'd like to share. His resume concerning Juneteenth is just phenomenal. But at the age of 25, Ron Brown opened 2 clothing businesses in very prominent neighborhoods in the city of Philadelphia. And he was the sole, as a business owner, he co-founded Philadelphia's African American Parade, and it was its sole financial sponsor. Anybody's ever participated in a parade, tried to put one together, you know what that kind of thing costs. And he was its sole financial sponsor at the age of 25. In 1995, Ron Brown founded the Germantown Juneteenth Coalition, now doing business as the Pennsylvania Juneteenth Coalition. And in 1997, hosted its first 3-day festival to be held in the state of Pennsylvania. In 1998, Ron partnered with the principal of Germantown High School, and he also wrote and infused a Juneteenth curriculum in the high school's Twilight program. And in partnership with the principal, he also co-founded, and they celebrated a Juneteenth Teenage Conference, which was a 2-day event at Germantown High School. Niason has already talked about the President Biden signing into law the holiday, so I will not read that part, but Ron had quite a bit to do with that as well. He also was responsible for writing a new social studies curriculum for grades pre-K to 8 in the school district of Philadelphia, celebrating Juneteenth, the history of Juneteenth, a celebration of freedom, as a social studies model. And the school district of Philadelphia is the first public school in the entire country to celebrate it and to have students be required to take this course as an African American studies. And our guest today is responsible for that. Ron is also one of the founding members and founding commissioners of the Mayor's Commission on African and Caribbean Immigrant Affairs, appointed by then Mayor Street in 2005, and of which our beloved Honorable Stan Straughter is our former chairperson. In 2019, Ron Brown became the PA State Director, collaborating with the state representative, Susan Helm, to introduce the Shepherd's HB 619 bill, which is the Juneteenth legislation, through the Pennsylvania House, and with PA's Governor Wolf signed that bill into law on June 19th, 2019, and declared Juneteenth a state legal holiday in which not only, we're the second state. Reverend Pam, did you know that Texas was the first state to do so in 1980, right there where you live?
Are you serious?
Your state was the first state, yes, in 1980.
Impressive.
Ron Brown is the Northeast Regional National Director overseeing 10 states from Maine to Delaware. And under his leadership, not only is Juneteenth celebrated as a national holiday, but the state, the government, and the school districts celebrate Juneteenth not only as a legal holiday, but it gives the employees a day off with pay. Our brother and our guest today is responsible for that as well. June 19th, 2020 marks the 157th anniversary of African-American slaves in Texas being freed by way of President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which was issued on January 1st, 1865. Again, like I said, I would love to read more of this, but it is so much. But he's going to get a chance to talk about some of his accomplishments and who Juneteenth is, what it is not, before the commercialization takes it over. Welcome, my brother and my friend, Ron Brown, to Africaonline TV. We're so happy to have you to be here. Oh, let me just read this part. And I did highlight that because I thought this was very important. In 2020, Ron was the lead marketer for National Juneteenth Observance Foundation to make Juneteenth a national holiday, and the campaign received over 1.6 million signatures, fostering the 117th Congress of the United States to amend some bill, I lost it here, to make it a legal holiday in which President Biden signed into independence the act, S Senate Bill 475, making it an actual law. And Ron Brown was responsible for that as well. So welcome on to Africaonline. The floor is now yours. We are excited to hear from you. What is Juneteenth? How did it come to be? Why should we as Africans, and especially those of us in the diaspora, should be celebrating and honoring Juneteenth and not July 4th, actually?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We do.
Yes. Blessings, as I said, blessings. It's truly a blessing for me to be in the midst of this company in this space. I truly appreciate it. You don't know how much I appreciate it. But I didn't realize how much I appreciate it until I'm actually here in the space. I get a chance to experience these spirits. It's so much history, and I sit there going to sleep on my own Bible. Like, wow, I've done all that stuff. Sometimes you don't like to hear what you do. You just do the work, And I was trying to see how I would start this dialogue off, but I'm going to start it off by saying what Juneteenth is not.
Okay.
It's not. As my sister said, it's been co-opted. But it's been co-opted before it's been co-opted now, And it's been co-opted so that it will be giving a Southern, a Texan perspective. It would be giving that. Because, see, Texas was the darling of the South, And how the Texans was able to get the land of Texas, it was the slave owners who went into at the time, it was under the ownership of the Mexicans. And so the slave owners who wanted some, to put some slave on that land of that property, they went and, because Mexico, see where Mexico is this, and then you got Texas. And so the slave owners went into Texas and started setting up, plantations in Texas. And they start expanding, and then they got to the point of the Mexicans said, okay, I'm looking, they went down, they saw what's going on. They said, okay, no more slavery. We want no more slavery in the land. So they passed laws that there would be no more slavery. And they saw that what they was doing, they was had these plantations, which was making money. It was profiting. And they said, okay, we're going to charge you a tax for that because you're making money here, you know. And so when they went to do that, the slave owners, they got together and they decided to go into that land and arm themselves, and they recruited some of the those who was further, you know, say further north, the slave owners, and they decided to go in. And how they was able to take Texas from the Mexicans, they took Texas in 18 minutes.
What?
They took the slave owners took Mexico in 18, I mean, not Mexico, the slave owners took Texas from the Mexicans in 18 minutes. 18 minutes.
Oh my God.
And see, what I'm sharing with you is actually correct history. I mean, I got all this in writing. With everything I say is in writing. And so how were they able to take it from the Mexicans in 18 minutes? Well, what they did, they decided to go into the house, sneak into the house with their guns, and decide to capture the president. So they captured the president in 18 minutes. Imagine how long it takes to break in somebody's house and kidnap somebody, you know. And so they was able to do it. And so they said to the president, they said, look, we have you. You know, do you want to live? He says, if you want to live, tell all your army to back up further up into Mexico, out of Texas. If you want to live. If you want to live, tell them back up. And we want you to say that we're going to give you this land. We have the land. He said, I can't say that because, you know, there's always my people back there. They got to be convinced, you know. And so, you know, you have to allow me to go back there and try to convince them. So right now, I put a law in. You see, I made them go back. I put a law in that says that this is your land, but I got to go back there and convince them to make them enforce it. And so he went back. And so here they have the land, the slave owners, because they now have taken the land, you know. And so he goes back and he says to his people in the Congress, imagine the Congress. He says to the Congress, his people says, hey, look, you know, they kidnapped me, but they want me to give the land to them. They want to own the land. They want to take ownership of the land. And they said, no, we're not doing that. We're not allowing that to happen. No, we're not allowing that to happen, you know. And so he says, okay, let's form the army, get the army, and go back in. And so, you know, Mexico, they had a bigger army, you know. And so they went back in and took the land. And so when they took the land, here you have the United States and all the slave owners and the president, because you have to understand that 14 of the first 18 presidents had slaves. You know, now you have the second and the sixth president, they didn't have slaves because they got John Adams and his son. But you had from Washington to everybody in between, all the way down, including at that period of time when I'm talking about this incident happened. Everybody owned slaves, and they started off owning like 300 slaves and 250. So imagine all the presidents, and guess what? All the Congress, all the legislators, they also own slaves. So imagine everybody owned a slave. So you understand the decisions that they're going to make. And so when the Mexicans come back, they says, okay, look, we're going to put our army together and we're going to go back and take this land back for the slave owners. And so that's what they was able to do. They was able to go back and defeat the Mexicans because their army was bigger. And that's how they was able to take the land. And so the next several presidents And you have all those, you had about 4 presidents. You have all the top, whatever in leadership, they became in leadership because of them taking the land from the Mexicans. Each president, next to, and the one who said, yeah, let's go in there, he had owned 275 slaves. And then the next one that came in, he says, oh no, we don't want to. See, the whole thing is, we want to move this. We just took Texas. We then took California. And now we want to move our have slave plantations throughout all the land. So when you say about Texas was able to, even the flag that they hang up, the flag that the National Juneteenth has up. You take a look at the flag and take a look at the Texas flag. The Texas flag, if you look at the Texas flag, you see similarities between the two flags. The star in the middle, because they call it the Star State. You see the star and red, white, and blue. You go Google it, that flag, and you'll see the similar flag. You see a very similar flag, and this is the flag that in 1839, was a flag that they used and they raised when they took Texas, the slave owners. That was the same. Look at it. You look at it and say very similar. And so that's the flag that is being used. Now, if you look at and I'll share more about the flags that the African Americans use, the African in Americans, the Caribbean in America, because back then they wasn't slaves. There was Africans and Caribbeans who was brought here into America. But also, that history, they say Juneteenth on June 19, 1865. And I'm going to, they was USCTs, 5,000 USCTs, United States Colored Troops. And I'll share with you, I'm gonna come back from Philadelphia. And they was the one that surrounded Granger as he read General Order Number 3. Most of those Africans was from Philadelphia, that surrounded Granger, and he issued General Order Number 3. Now, they called that name Juneteenth, but it was actually called the Jubilee. It was
called what?
Yeah, repeat that again.
Jubilee. The Jubilee.
Oh, Jubilee. Jubilee. Okay.
Jubilee.
Jubilee. Okay.
Jubilee.
Okay.
It was actually called the Jubilee. It wasn't called Juneteenth. Juneteenth the name didn't become Juneteenth to 1890. 1890. They say 1890, but the writings that I have, the written documents I have, is in 1909. So, but they said it happened, but they talked about it as if it was going on, because they talk about it, the Juneteenth. They celebrate the Africans, they celebrate the Juneteenth. So that's in 1909, in the current issue, a book, magazine called The Current Issue. So it has it, but they say in so it was not called Juneteenth. Now, also, they say that the last slaves, the last of the Africans, the Africans that was given their freedom, Caribbean Africans were given their freedom in Texas on June 19th. It was in June 19th in Galveston, Texas. Well, the same person who read that General Order Number 3, Granger, he also issued 5 general orders. And he also issued 5 general orders on June 22nd. June 22nd. So they say the last of the Africans were given their freedom on June 19th in Galveston, Texas. In Galveston, Texas. No. The last of the Africans in Texas was given their freedom on June 22nd, 1865, with Granger, and Gordon Granger, and Godfrey Wentzel. See, Godfrey Wentzel was the commander of the USATs. You know, now he also took the Granger and Sheridan, General Sheridan, into Texas to free the last of the Africans in Texas with the general order, the 5 general orders. Now, they talk about the 1866 celebration. Well, that 1866 celebration took place in Houston, Texas. And the next several celebrations was in Houston, Texas. It was in Emancipation Park, and it was by a Baptist minister and an AME minister, and with taught members of the congregations. And so they bought Emancipation Park, this land, for $1,000, so that they would have Juneteenth Jubilee celebration. So the event was called Jubilee. You go back and look, and right, they was called Jubilee.
So
now I'll go back and I'll share how that was the case. It was called Jubilee. Even when when it became a holiday in Texas, it didn't become a holiday in the bill. You don't see the name Juneteenth. You'll see Emancipation Day. You won't see Juneteenth in the original bill. You won't see Juneteenth. A lot of the celebrations that was going on back then in the beginning they was called Jubilee or Emancipation Day because of the Emancipation Proclamation that Lincoln issued. But those who came from Philadelphia, and I'll share, and those who were from the AME churches, and they was throughout. You had 18 AME churches prior to the Civil War, and then you had 4 AME churches during the Civil War. And so that day, was called Jubilee.
So Ron, okay.
Yeah.
Got a lot of history. Coming forward. We're coming forward.
Yeah. Let me go back.
You want to go back even further?
Now. I just want to go back now. Now, when we go back to the name Tracy Jubilee, we'll see Jubilee on the Liberty Bell. The Liberty Bell, you'll see it written right on the Liberty Bell, the independence symbol, national independence symbol, proclaimed liberty throughout the land to all the inhabitants thereof. Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10. Now, when you go into look at that, you have to take those verses and go all the way back, because basically saying, stop the oppression of one to the other, returning the Africans to the tribe, returning people to the tribe, and reunite the family. So, but when you go to Leviticus, you have to go back all the way back into Africa. Because if you go into the Bible, during that time, when that was taking place, you had the Israelis or the African Israelis leaving Africa, going over across the Red Sea over to the land. But before, as they're going, they have to go to a high place, to the mountain, And so when you go into, and they have to be able to get those things off the Bible from Moses. And so when you have that right there, you talk about, at that point, you begin to talk the third books of Moses. And so at that time, we talk about Leviticus, it was about those things that they were supposed to do in their life as they're going forward. So let me say, they're reuniting, they're going over to reunite with their families, right? The stopping the oppression of one to the other had just taken place because the Egyptians allowed them to stop the oppression at that time to allow them to move forward, right? And they returned, they reunited what? They not only returned to the tribe, they reunited with the family. So, there's the verses that you talk about, the Jubilee. You go into them, you say, okay, yeah, that's the history. Now, fast forward that history all the way to the Liberty Bell. Now, we go to the Liberty Bell, with the symbol. At that time, you had Mother Bethel Church, as I say, AME Church, the founding AME Church there, 5-6 blocks from up the street from the Liberty Bell. And they took that verse, that scripture, to heart because it was independence, it was religious, it was a symbol, it was a Christian, it was a symbol that they took that to the heart. And so what they did, they began to form these races. They began to form other different satellite sites, AME sites in other states. And so, as I said, 18 before the Civil War. So what was it about? They was about what? The Underground Railroad. Taking, the Africans through the Underground Railroad. So they was Underground Railroad sites. And they also, because they said stop the oppression, that means there was a war that was taking place. So that means they had to what? They had to begin to enroll into this Civil War. If they was going to carry out the Jubilee, they had to go into this Civil War. And so you had a person by the name of Thelonious Stewart. He would go around because he was the preacher, he was the chaplain for the 25th Corps. And so he would go around to all and saying to the East State, asking them, my brethren, to join. And so that's where they begin to set up those AME spaces. So here you have the Jubilee. Now we say about those Africans, they're going into what? They have to join the Civil War. So they say, for example, we talked about the African American Parade. Well, the first African American Parade was in 1842 in Philadelphia. First African American Parade, and it was called the Jubilee, because the Jubilee is what? What the Caribbean? The emancipation. They called that their Emancipation Day. They celebrated. The Caribbeans celebrate Jubilee as the emancipation from who? They celebrated from the British. And so just this year, British celebrated big time. they celebrated, if you go look at this Google, British celebrated Jubilee, picked out the Queen, their parades, they celebrated, but that Jubilee is the Africans who was giving their freedom. That parade was 8 years removed. And so they had a parade, and as they was gathering down the street and they had a flag, they was attacked in the streets by the Irish. And so they was attacked. And churches would burn, buildings would burn. I mean, for 3 or 4 days, they was attacked and beat and brutalized. They could be on the street. Philadelphia had to be one of the racist city in the United States. Now they was attacked. And so here but when the Civil War took place, and it was over what? It was over slavery. I even heard a brother was talking about you couldn't get married, you couldn't you couldn't even drink. There's so many restrictions that you had in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, you couldn't do those things prior to, but in Philadelphia, before the Emancipation Proclamation, before Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, in Philadelphia, the Africans was able to get their freedom before 1850. And the first Emancipation Act was in 1808 with Reverend Absalom Jones. That was a freedom act. That's a freedom act that says free those people, your people. But officially, the last one was freed in 18. So when Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, it was those Africans doing what? Carrying out the Jubilee, stopping the oppression of one to the other, returning the people to the tribe, reuniting the family. So what they did, now one of the great things, you had the guy named Thaddeus Stevens. He was the one that controlled the money in the House. He was the one that controlled the money. So fortunately, he was from Pennsylvania. So when they attacked in South Carolina, when they did attack and started the Civil War, he was the one that controlled the money. And so when he said, okay, he started the taxes. The first taxes came from, him getting money for the Civil War. And
yeah, Ron, wait. You're taking us too far back now. We're here at present time. We want to come present. We're talking about Juneteenth. It's now a legal holiday. Why is it that we should be celebrating it? We want.
Give me one more. Give me 2 minutes.
Because I have a lot of people who have to give comments, and we're going to be taking our 15 minutes. We'll be at the top of the hour. Okay.
So just give me 2 minutes. I'll do it in 2 minutes. And it was those Africans from the 7th Ward, in Philadelphia, in South Philadelphia. It was those Africans that were enrolled to Camp William Penn and over there at Cheltenham Township. And it was those Africans from there that went to Virginia and defeated the Confederacy and Lee in Virginia. It was those Africans from the Camp William Penn from the 7th Ward. They defeated Lee. So you had 6 regiments from that camp. And it was those same regiments that that came the 25th Corps. And when they defeated the General Lee, they then went on a boat and picked up Granger in Alabama. Then they took Granger on the 14th of June from Alabama. On the 16th, Granger sent all his troops and staff over to Texas to start that. They took him from the 14th, then they took him to New Orleans, to the headquarters. Then they took him, it was 5,000 USCTs, took Granger to Galveston, Texas, where it became he read General Order Number 3, that actually was what they call Juneteenth on June 19, 1865. So what they call Juneteenth is really called the Jubilee. Even when Lincoln was able to on the 11th of April after they won the war and he went to Virginia. When he went to Virginia and they had that celebration in Virginia, because I said Virginia was a Confederate state, they call that Jubilee. So the actual real history is Jubilee. And where I say it goes all the way back to the continent of Africa. And it's also celebrated all by the Caribbean today. They celebrate. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that amazing history of Juneteenth. We want to open the floor for any questions at this moment. Anyone have any questions or comments? Let's start.
Yeah, I have a question. Brother, thank you so much. You gave some deep history there.
Yes, very deep.
My question is short and simple. By the way, this show is unscripted. So how did that name, I understood that it was initially called Jubilee. How did they come up with Juneteenth? It said Juneteenth, the T-E-E-N-T-H. How did they come up with that name and what's the significance of the name?
Yeah. So as the first you have the celebrations that's going from 1866, right? And as they celebrating, and then what happened was it began to start to die out.
What began to die out?
It began to start to die out because what happened was, you had the Reconstruction. Right after Reconstruction, the Southerners took back the Confederates. They took back the South. The Confederates, those who were the generals, they took back the South. And so when they took back the South, what you have the KKK. This is bad that people do it. They have the KKK attacking. They have all this. That's racial stuff that's going on. Against African Americans because they're now taking them back into slavery. So because of that, it began to die out. Now, when it began to start to be celebrated again, more celebrated again, that's when they call the name Juneteenth. And they called it Juneteenth because it occurred in the June in June during the 10th. So they call it Juneteenth. So that's how it got, only because of the Confederate was able to get the South back through a deal that was made between Grant and so that about a president, so that the guy would become a president. So,
and I believe not just the 10th, but it was June, and it was June 19th, and they combined the two to make it Juneteenth.
No. That's a. I'll be honest with you. That's a history that I put out there, and I was shared with that for many years. And you see, I got the writing and all that. But no. They even called this. They even spelled it like some spelled it like June, and then they had some had it and then Teenth. They had even had it broke up. Between. But
okay.
But that was the actual reason why they happened, and it's just that people stop.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sister Deborah, would you like to? Do you have a comment or a question?
She's
Just
muted.
unmute.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. How's everybody? I enjoyed the history of it because I didn't actually know the history of it. I did know some of the history where it pertains to Mother Bethel AME Church because I was raised in that church.
Oh.
So I knew a lot about that, but I didn't know the connection it had with Juneteenth. I knew about the Underground Railroad, and it was really good to hear and put it all together. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, as my sister said, they are that man is very interesting because I'm telling you, every time we take a step forward, he puts us in a situation where he make us take a step back. It wasn't just coincidental we have an Obama than a Trump. That's been the design, and now the design is to based on that history and say don't understand what I said. Reuniting the family, reuniting who? The African, the Caribbean, the African American, the people of the African diaspora, reuniting the family, and so they don't want that family to be reunited, they don't, truthfully, they don't even want to stop the oppression of one to the other because they're making money off those guns. I mean, you have to understand this whole, the whole, what they don't want this, because don't forget, when this thing started happening, only with COVID, they was talking about defund the police. And so, okay, you talking about defund the police, here goes some guns, and then boom, everybody got guns. And then if you don't got a gun today, because they got guns, then you want to get a gun. So but go ahead.
Now I'm gonna say we don't talk politics here.
No, I'm not talking politics.
Okay.
Not talking politics. I'm just saying
we want to stay talking about the celebration.
You're talking about something. I put out, if you saw the calendar. Now don't forget.
Calendar.
Don't forget. When I first started Juneteenth in Pennsylvania. I was the first to celebrate Juneteenth in Pennsylvania. And I celebrated with a 3-day festival. And I did collaborate, and I had 150 organizations that's a part. So in order for it to be a national holiday, I did it with organizations, and everybody, hey, do Juneteenth. Then I went into the counties out there, do Juneteenth. So, and so when you see that, it started with a 3-day, and now you see what it is today. Because I was able to get all this, everybody, and then I was able to get it to be a state legal holiday in the state of Pennsylvania. And so, but I'm asking everybody. And so when the politicians, don't forget, because not one African-American bill has ever passed in the House or the Senate. Not one African-American bill has never passed it either, because in the Senate, you had 30 more Republicans than Democrats. In the House, you had at the time 65 more Republicans, not one. And so how do you get them? Okay, invite your politicians to Juneteenth. Let them speak. Let them see what it is. It's not threatening, because he goes there, yeah, I am such and such. And say, oh yeah, I had a good time. Okay, so when you introduce it into the habit, say, okay, make it a state legal holiday. And say, okay, yeah. In the first year, it was 191-0 and 50-0. I mean, everybody said yay, not one person. So it wasn't threatening to them. Because you start talking about slavery, slavery, I mean, hey, look, slavery. No, you got to make You got to bring the
Okay,
music.
okay,
You got
Brother
to bring the
Ronald.
culture.
Hello,
You got to
Brother
bring.
Ronald. Yeah, Brother Ronald.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to put in a question.
Go ahead.
We have attained it. We have achieved it. We now have Juneteenth as a national holiday. How do we celebrate it? What will we do today differently than
Yeah.
we're doing in the past, celebrating it in the shadows? Now that we're in the light, how shall we celebrate Juneteenth?
Okay. One. What did I just say? Reuniting the family. So you're from what culture? What family? Yeah. That we. So the Africans. See, I was the original founder of the American Commission on African Women and Immigrant Affairs. I was what actually the brains of the whole thing came from me. And it was to reunite the families, the African, the Caribbean, and the African American family. That's how the Mayor's Commission actually really started, through Janie Blackwell, because that's where I went to get it done to someone named Alicia. So it's to reunite the family. Return to what? Reunite the family. See, Juneteenth was the first family reunion. Even is the first family reunion. Juneteenth is the first family. I mean, you really understand what the real history. So you're reuniting the family, returning to what? Returning them to the tribes. Where's the tribes at? The tribes is where? It's in Africa. Returning. So how do you get there? So you how do you get there? So they got different techniques, even with this genealogy, to taking the DNA and all this, and then they got them, and so they able to get somewhat in a certain particular area in Africa. If you go, through the genealogy. So one is to get more involved in genealogy. So what? To do family unions. So you got African Americans doing family unions. So then you got the Africans and Caribbeans and the Africans doing family unions. And so what is also what? To stop the oppression to one or the other. And so you're doing so. See, you don't hear too much violence taking place on family unions. Because I did a piece in 2007 in the communities, and I was able to stop the violence. So I did. They, that's in record through Juneteenth, through family unions, getting those people in the community on those blocks to do what? Celebrate through music, through entertainment, not through. You don't have to say stop the violence. All you gotta do is bring the culture in to the scene, and they see it, and you just use the word stop the violence. That's all it was. And when they joined themselves, I was able to stop the murders and I had an office in West Philly. I was able to stop the murders in 1 year, 3 months through that concept. And everybody is reunited, Now, what was the other thing I'm doing? How important, how do you get into the family? You have to, it's repairing, it's about repairing the family, So, it's about, the real thing is, repairing the family. So you have to bring those elements to the table. To me, I'm fortunate because I've been doing this for 25 years and been doing it for 20. That means that I'm now interconnected with everybody. Believe me, I'm connected with everybody in position, in whoever where, you everywhere, I'm connected with them. And so what I decided to do, I say to them, that's okay. What I'm doing now is going into our schools with a Juneteenth holiday curriculum. And so now, we just started the training and started the program. We just started this year. I did it also, but this is a Juneteenth holiday curriculum. And this is a holiday curriculum. It's a curriculum of education, research, and all kinds of information. When we put this thing out, the curriculum out, that will be the true history, our true history. And it's also going to be invited because I went that way so that it'll be released to all these schools in the state and the nation. This information will be released to everyone to celebrate what? The real history, And so that's and so who I've asked the Africans to come at the table. What? Because you have African students, you have African children in those schools. You have African and you have a culture. So Africans, the Caribbean, all those who are in position, in all these positions, we're bringing them all in. We're bringing the artists, we're bringing everybody in, everybody in because what? They're at the table, And so you bring them in to do what? to really educate our children. And also you bring in the family union, genealogical point through our children. And so they take that knowledge and information and to what? Their homes. Because one of the problems is right now, the way the thing is set up, there's problems in these homes. There's problems in these communities. And so you have to get these kids in these schools, because now they can get all the education in these schools, and then when they go back home, they go back down because of the way it is. So now you have to be able to go and take them into, put them in a rites of passage and a real educational cultural setting, whereas they're doing all this culture, their real culture, not that other stuff, their real culture, their real history. And so these are some of the things that we're doing, as we're moving forward. Because, as my sister said, I was able to get it to be a state, not only in Pennsylvania, I was able to get a state holiday in New York, in New Jersey, in Massachusetts, in Virginia. I was able to get it also at holiday. And as my sister said, I was the one who marketed at the time she was 89-year-old. I'm the one that marketed, his name was Oprah Lee. I was the one that marketed her because she was willing to walk 5 miles. And as I marketed her I had asked people to sign a petition for Oprah Lee. Sign a petition for Oprah Lee. She's walking for your freedom. And one of the great things that happened as I was doing that, you had this guy, George Floyd, in the protest that was going on. And what they decided, so what do we do, man? All this stuff is going, we got to get, how do we get out of this? This is, he's out there promoting Juneteenth, this older lady, okay. We'll make Juneteenth a state. They was calling me. So I was the one that was writing the legislation. And so they was calling me so that, but once they got that into place, you see all these other elements of voters' rights, all these other things. Once that became everything, the 6th of January, everything is now. Don't have that education, that African American stuff in these schools. Everything came right after Juneteenth. I'm telling you, all this stuff.
Okay, Brother Ronald, it's me again. I was going to put a question before the top of the hour, but you may think about it. When we come back from the top of the hour, we usually take a break for a sip of water. You can then go back to that topic. I'm asking about the curriculum you want to put into schools. You know what America has become, a land of protest against everything from school curriculum to politics and whatever. So how will you inject this curriculum into the schools in such a way as parents and those who are on the other side of history think that you are not recreating your own history, you are not being a revisionist or something like that? Because today, the school curriculums have even cost some politicians their jobs. So how will you inject this into the school system in such a way as to keep politics out of education?
Hear what you just said? If I bring you at the table, you would get for it at the table. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. That's just for you to think about, because we're at the top of the hour, and right off the opportunity to have a comment. At the top of the hour at 5 o'clock, we will play our national anthem. We are getting ready. So while we are waiting for the 5 o'clock for the anthem, I'm going to ask Nichelle, would you like to make a comment? Diane, do you have a comment? Diane will be our guest in September. But what is going on with is it my computer that's going haywire here?
No, it's fine.
Nichelle? Okay.
Yes, I apologize for being visually offline as I'll be entering into a class shortly. I want to thank you for that plethora of information, honestly, some of it which I was unfamiliar with. I actually live in the area where Camp William Penn is. And so any history regarding it is of great interest to me. And I know when historians are so full of the past knowledge, it's hard to just pick one part, but I really do appreciate the background, the further background into the origins of Juneteenth and what actually happened. So I'm so glad I was able to come in this afternoon and join you.
Thank you, Nichelle. I think Diane has disappeared. Okay, so Deborah, did you have one more comment, or are we just gonna go right on into our national anthem?
Yeah,
I think it's the top of the hour, so
we're gonna go to our anthem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Africa. Oh no. Africans, Africans for Africa. 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 Africans have many bright ideas. If only you let us share. If you really want to know my history, please come, sit down, listen to my story. God gave us a wisdom. He guides our footsteps, makes us shine and transform. Hey, as one people, with so many cultures, yet indeed we are one. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Let us all unite behind Africaonline Media Corporation. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. It's time to come together, promote awareness, progress, and solution. Hey. Africans, Africans for Africa. Africans, Africans for Africa. Africans, Africans for Africa. All Africans can rally for a common cause, to believe without judgment in what our brother does, to identify and resolve our challenges, to allow each other's ideas without regard to standards. As one people with so many cultures, yes indeed we are one. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. Let us solve all the problems plaguing our continent. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Let us empower Africans in and out of Africa. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. Africaonline Media Corporation, that's a good way to start. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. They have all the resources we need to benefit our society. Oh. Education for everyone. If we believe prosperity for Africans, if we believe medical facilitation for Africans, if we believe stand up, Africa, yes, for Africa. Africaonline Media Corporation, that's a good way to start. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Africa is a cradle of civilization, the motherland. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. We were enslaved not because we were weak, but because of our hospitality. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Jump on the Africaonline miracle jet. Don't be left behind. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. Together we shall succeed. Together we will win. Stand up, Africans, save Africa. We are writing our own story, the truth, and we shall tell it to the world. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. No more lies. Africans own Africa. Africans, let's save Africa.
Africans on Africa. My apologies. I went full screen and I couldn't find the icon to reduce it. So that is our anthem. Ambassador Lisa, share it with Brother Ronald. I think the lyrics of that anthem would really line up with all his work that he's been doing. And I'm very happy that you are getting Juneteenth, the truth, as part of the curriculum, because we have to write our own story. The truth, which I tell you to the world, that's part of the lyrics of that song. We own full rights to that song. So I think that is something that you need to listen to. Before I make any announcements, I want to thank you for all your labor of love, all your efforts to get this Juneteenth a federal holiday. You started small and you did a lot of legwork. You reached out to a lot of people. Thank you so much. I know you had help along the way, but I want to thank you and everybody else that participated and helped to make sure that this Juneteenth is a federal holiday. So thank you so much, Ron. And next week, we're going to be celebrating Father's Day. I'm glad we're talking about Juneteenth today, because next week, everybody will be talking about it, but we are getting enlightened today. Somebody in the waiting room. So next Sunday, we're going to dedicate it to the fathers. We want to spend the entire month of June lifting up our brothers, our fathers, our sons, our nephews, our men, because a lot of people don't speak good about them. A lot of people don't eulogize our men. So we have to do it. In May, we dedicate May to our sisters. This month is for our brothers. I would like to encourage every female to find one brother and encourage them. They don't have to be your family members.
Amen.
Just encourage them. I don't care if you see them at a gas station or a grocery store. Our men are still endangered in this country and in the diaspora, not on the continent as much, but in the diaspora. So just encourage them, just with a word, with a word of encouragement. The chief executive editor said today was National Loving Day, honoring the loving couple, but I think it's also talking about we need to love one another. So let's share that love, especially toward our brothers. They need it. They need it. I want to encourage all our sisters. Let's not put them down. Let's not pull them down. Let's not degrade them. Let's not discount them. Let's lift them up and encourage them and promote them and bless them. So next week again, we're going to be talking about Father's Day. Please come on and brag about your father. I want to try to share. And Ambassador Lisa will talk more about this, but let me know if you see this on the screen. If not, I'm not going to bother, because I think each time I try to share it, it's bringing me something else. Let's see here. It's a document. Okay, do you guys see the information about the summit?
Yes.
Okay, our sister organization, Africa's Brain Bank, is having its 3rd annual Summit and Charity Ball in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta is the Black Mecca. I need to understand that, and we are so excited. It's going to be phenomenal. I am not going to tell you who the event chair is or the keynote speaker, but these are some very blessed brothers. I am telling you, they're known globally. You see, our men rock. So once we get the official headshots from them, we will share those flyers. And we already have our brothers on the panel. We're trying to confirm some sisters, but it's going to be awesome. This is a must attend. The inaugural event was 2019 in Maryland. In 2020, we had a closed door vision casting with legendary Bill Duke, the iconic actor. And last year we had a veteran summit. However, this one will be in person in Atlanta, Georgia. I know Ambassador Lisa already bought her shoes last year and her outfit, so she's ready, she's fired up. and she's going to be there. So we want to encourage everybody. It's going to be October 8 and 9. If you want to participate in the Billionaires Breakfast brunch, you need to be a sponsor. That'll be on Sunday the 9th. On the 8th, we're going to have an academic symposium in the morning from 8 to noon. There'll be an elaborate red carpet. Our red carpet is more elaborate than the Oscars. So if you see somebody else try copy, they got it from here. Our red carpet is unique. It's amazing. So it'll be from 5:30 to 6:50. The summit will start promptly at 7. We start everything on time. We don't start late. We start on time. So all these things are going to happen Eastern Standard Time, Atlanta time, not Pacific time, but Atlanta time, and we're going to start promptly. So it will be at the Atlanta Airport Marriott. Here's the ticket link. Let me see if I can get to the ticket. And we also have a special rate for the hotel. I want you to share this information with all your team members. Brother Ronald, you need to get all your group, to become part of this thing. Let me share the ticket link. We're using Ticket Spice. The tickets are $125. The event actually costs more than $125, but we want to encourage people to participate. The meal is sumptuous. We're going to have breakfast during the symposium. So if you're an IT person there, we need help. I'm the one that put this thing in the background. That's why it's like that. But you see, we have 117 days to go. This is the hotel link. If you click it here, it will take you to the our room block. So the room block is already open. You can book your hotel room. Well, my system is slow. It's taking too long to come. But go to our website. Well, it'll be updated on our website a little bit. So the tickets are 125 each. If you want to reserve a table, then you can get 9 other people to give you $125, and you can reserve a table. A table is $12.50. However, that's not a VIP. The sponsors start from $2,500, and when you go to the ticket site, you will see exactly what comes with those. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Do you guys see the hotel? Is the hotel on my?
Yeah,
okay.
it is.
So you go there, you click, it will take you to the special rates that Marriott have given us. Again, it's Atlanta Airport Marriott, so you don't need transportation. You just fly in. It says it's Africa's Brain Bank 3rd Annual Summit and Charity Ball. The rooms are reserved. That block is for Friday, October the 7th through Sunday. So if you want to stay longer than that, you can do that. Again, share it with all your friends, even your enemies. Share this information. If you're a person of African descent, it's a must attend. Your life will never be the same again. So I'm going to hand over to Nia Song to speak to our French people, and then he's going to have Ambassador Lisa. No, I'm going to hand over to Ambassador Lisa. I'm sorry, to talk about our ongoing water project, and then Nia Song will speak to our French listeners before we get back to Juneteenth. Madam Ambassador.
Thank you, Reverend Pam. As we said earlier, as Reverend Pam has already said, Africaonline has an ongoing fundraiser. We call it Borehole 55, where we desire to put a borehole in every country on the continent of Africa. And we are so excited that our first borehole project has been completed in the country of Sierra Leone. It is up, it is running, it is serving not only the medical facility where it has been placed, but there is a tap which serves 6,000 homes, 6,000 households in that country or in that village as well. Our next country will be Kenya, and we are constantly raising funds. So if you would like to be a part, because water is life. Without water, you can't do anything. And if you would like to be a part of this fundraiser to help us help our daughters and our sons on the continent, you can donate any amount of dollar, rand, pound, shilling, whatever. All donations go towards the borehole project. None of it goes towards any administrative fees. You can find the link at www.africaonlinetv.org. Go to the event or to the fundraiser page, and you will see Operation Borehole 55, and you can make your donation there. There are several platforms for you to make donations for the Borehole project. Again, I don't want to take up much more time, and Reverend Pam has already talked about our sister organization, Africa's Brain Bank, Gala and Summit coming up in October. But again, if you have any questions, you want to reach out to us concerning the Borehole project, you have a question, send that question to info@africaonlinetv.org, and we'll be careful to get back to you at our earliest convenience. Thank you so much, Brother Neasan.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, mesdames, messieurs. Nous continuons à vous solliciter de nous joindre à sponsoriser le puits d'eau dans les divers pays africains. On en a 55 pays en Afrique. On a commencé au Sierra Leone, on a creusé un puits d'eau potable là-bas avec la technologie du temps, du moment, du 21e siècle, 21e siècle. Donc, nous vous sollicitons de contribuer ce que vous pouvez dans votre devise monétaire et envoyez ça à www.africaonlinetv.org pour qu'on puisse continuer à creuser des puits d'eau dans les divers pays africains. On construit ces puits d'eau dans les centres de santé développés pour que les femmes puissent accoucher avec des conditions propices, pour que les femmes puissent accoucher avec de l'eau. Et au Sierra Leone, on a fini, s'est livré, ça c'est une population de 6 000, donc ce n'est pas seulement pour le centre de développement, c'est le centre de développé de santé, c'est aussi pour la population. Et là-bas au Sierra Leone, l'ingénieur du coin a même mis de l'électricité dans la salle d'accouchement. Et nous vous sollicitons de bien vouloir nous aider à continuer à construire ce point d'eau dans les divers pays africains. Pour une date à noter, c'est pour octobre, le 8 et le 9, ça sera en Géorgie, à Atlanta, Marriott. Ça, ce sera une fête pour notre concert Africa's Brain Bank. Donc, nous vous sollicitons d'y aller, de participer, de faire votre présence pour que nous continuons à aider l'Afrique pour que l'Afrique devienne l'Afrique des Africains, pour les Africains et pas les Africains. Merci beaucoup, madame. And turning back to the discussion, Brother Ronald, my question was, how do you get the curriculum into the schools without having those people who say no to everything and yet they say yes to nothing?
One of the blessings that how I was able to convince the superintendent of the schools to, infuse this holiday. And as I said, that I've had a Juneteenth curriculum since 1999 and in 2005. But the key is to bring those minds like yourself. If we have just based on what you just said, just based on what you did, I'm not taking it about just based on what you just said. If you was at the table, I don't know if that stuff for you would even allow that stuff to be there. And so we have to have like minds like you at the table. And fortunately, I'm in position, I'm in control to make those decisions of who's going to be where, And so I would like to have, hey, just based on what you just said, see, we need those type of minds to make sure that everything is correct. Now we talking about history. That's why I said bring the, now I'm the African descendant. I was born here in America. I look like you was born there in Africa. And others was born in Africa. So you have to bring, as I said, those correct elements to. You have to bring the African community. Talk about what African studies. You got African Americans. See, one thing about even the Bears Commission. I think when we started the Bears Commission, there was like three or four Africans. It was the Bears Commission on African Caribbean Immigrant Affairs. I think there was only 3 Africans at the table at the beginning, 2 or 3, And so, and most of those was African Americans. That was the founding commissioners, And so he was talking Mayor's Commissioner, just right there. How were they going to be able to that successful and be able to accomplish what they really needed to accomplish, If you only have like a few at the table, but you have to bring, as I said, the correct elements to the table. And if you have the correct elements table, I don't think it's going to be able to be co-opted. I don't think they're going to be able to have those, those issues, those problems. And so I personally, I like to have, stay in touch with you, so we can have more discussion. But yeah, that's how you do that. You have those like minds at that table to make sure that the correct history, the correct elements is being implemented. Because we're not, as I said, we talk about African families, we talk about Caribbean African families. You got to make, and their families. We got to make sure that these correct things are at our table to empower and rebuild our families.
Ambassador Lisa?
Yes, thank you, Ron. It is 5:20 and we will soon be wrapping up, but I have a quick question. Ron, next week is Juneteenth. And as I've shared with you already, some of the commercializations I've seen already in the stores. So if this is our Independence Day, how do we celebrate? What are some of the things? I mean, I've seen there's a Blackish with Anthony Anderson, and they do a show about Juneteenth, and it was something about strawberry soda and red velvet cake. And so what are those elements that we want to bring into our Juneteenth celebration when we bring our families together for this great family reunion? What are some of the things that we want to do to make it more authentic?
Yeah, let me share this Juneteenth has been co-opted. Here I shared with you about that history, and you don't have those elements. If you look at that calendar, you see music, you see concerts, you see all this. You don't see the correct elements at the table. And so one of the things I did this year, now I was going to start out with the family reunion, but I'll be honest with you. I have to be very honest with you. I'm very conscious of my people. And I'm very conscious that outside in these communities, there's COVID is still out there, Now, and people are not wearing masks, And so, I struggled even to put that calendar out. I struggled for about 2-3 weeks to put it out, because if I put it out, that would invite people to be in public to do things. And then with that COVID out there, but I made the decision, instead of, bringing in these elements, as I shared, the correct elements that's part of Juneteenth. I made the decision to go into our schools, take most of this year for me. I went to the schools to develop this curriculum. People are going to be out there, they doing Juneteenth parties, and they do all kinds of block parties. They do it all, but I understand that they're going to do. Why? Most of them don't have the education and information, correct, or what this particular thing is. So one of the things we're doing now is putting all the information, bringing all the culture, the correct people together to construct what this thing is going to be. And then next year, we'll implement it, And so also with that next year, I hopefully, prayerfully, the COVID won't be out there,
Right.
Now me, I have not been out there. People ask me, come do this. I've been out there. I'll be honest with you. I have not been out there in public. Now I do a Zoom thing, but I'm not going out there, and I'm not really encouraging people to go out there. But I will put the curriculum, because everybody was looking for that calendar. People, that calendar, and also it makes a statement of how many organizations and people are at the table celebrating of our culture and our history. They out there, but you see them, just got to make sure you give them the correct information of what it really is,
I did
so that they can celebrate correctly.
I did see the calendar. I looked at it real briefly before the show, and I believe, was that nationwide? Was that a nationwide calendar? Because I saw some things in some different states. And
no, all of that, and that is that's 88 pages, and you got 2 or 3 on one page, so that's the amount of book. Now I also, because as I said in the regional, I'm getting all the calendars from all over the nation, and I think I'm going to put out also a national calendar. Okay. And so I have to put out another book, probably one more, because people are constantly coming in, people wait the last minute to bring their events in. So I have to put that out, and I have to put a national, because I'm getting a lot of national, other states sending me to say, come on, Ron, put me in. Hey, Ron, come on, let's do. And so, like I said, bringing the family together. So
well, we want to make sure that we support Juneteenth. They did make it a national holiday, and because it is a national holiday, we want to celebrate it. We want the government, we want President Biden and everyone else in authority to know that this is our Independence Day and we are celebrating our Juneteenth. So find a Juneteenth celebration that is going on, show up, participate, let your face be seen, so that when they do the count, they will see that they are African Americans and those of us in the diaspora that are celebrating and honoring our Juneteenth celebration. Ron, thank you so much for coming and sharing rich history on Juneteenth. It is not just about the slaves being free. And that, just like Black history, our history did not start with slavery. Our history started way back in Africa. And, you know, they would just like you to think that our Black history started here in America with slavery, but that is not true. And we thank you, Ron, for taking us all the way back. I mean, you went all the way back to talk about the history of Jubilee, all the way up to Juneteenth, and how it is now a national holiday, and how many states are giving their employees a day off for Juneteenth with pay, just like, and Martin Luther King was the last federal holiday that was institutionalized or nationalized like Juneteenth. And we want to make sure that we take advantage of those holidays, letting the government know that what we do is important. And we thank you for all the work that you have done and all the work you will continue to do. And that is going to be my last word on the subject. Nia-san, back to you.
Thank you very much. I know Sister Deborah, Sister Connie, and somebody just coming in, Dr. Tony. I know you want to say something, so why don't I start at the bottom of my screen? Dr. Tony, thank you for joining the show. Please unmute and have just your word on the show, Juneteenth.
He may not have a word.
Okay, all right, okay. Brother Connie, Sister Connie, you have a word or two? If so, unmute and say something, please. Not available. Okay, Sister Deborah, pardon me.
I'm saying that they are all muted. So if they're speaking, I can't hear.
Sister Deborah, can you unmute and have your last word? Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for that wealth of information. I really enjoyed hearing it. I didn't know that there was so much to it. So I'm glad that I was here to get that understanding. Continue the good work. God bless you.
Thank you so much. So at this point, I'll go to our main guest, Brother Ronald. Please, your last word on the show. How would you want us to wrap this up? What do you want us to remember as we leave the show today?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we understand our history, our correct history, the correct history of this particular event, and I also want to say we have to be reunited. We have to reunite our family. So I want everybody to at this table look at how we can reunite. I know we have things planned. Everything is actually planned. It's going to be our reunions all down the parkway. We're going to have things all across the city, but all across the state. But we want to make sure that this particular event is celebrated correctly. We don't want it to be co-opted, because if they co-opted, we'll not be able to celebrate our correct history. And so that's something that we want to make sure that's happening. I really appreciate, as I said, being in this space, with these spirits. I knew before I came in, I felt the energy, I felt the vibe. So it's something I get excited, but I'm excited because I know I'm in the right place with the right spirits, and your energy has went into me to get me to come out. So, but I appreciate you. I appreciate being in this space. I thank you, my sister, for inviting me. And Ashe.
Thank you. Now, Ambassador Lisa, you said your last word already. So why don't I turn to the Chief Executive of Africa Online Media Corporation, Reverend Pam. You're muted.
Ambassador Lisa and Brother Rona, was that O'Shea you guys just said?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's Yoruba for thank you. I don't know if that's I think it's Yoruba.
Is it thank you? I know we say it on during Kwanzaa.
Yeah, Osho is thank you. I believe it's yeah, I believe it's Yoruba, one of the three main tribes in Nigeria. So Brother Ronald Osho, you know, and I will use my own language, Njika. Njika means thank you in Bali. You know, on behalf of Africa Online Media Corporation, we really, really, really want to appreciate you, all your work. Ambassador Lisa is going to keep you posted with the event. I will strongly encourage you to come to Atlanta. I think you're going to get more than, you know, you can ever imagine from that event. I think you should come. You know, at Africa's Brain Bank Third Annual Summit. It's not about any ticketing thing, but I think it will be a life transforming experience for you, you know, and your networks. I think that's a place that you belong, you know. And Sister Deborah, thank you so much. Dr. Tony, we didn't get to hear from you, but thank you for zooming in. And Sister Connie, thank you for zooming in. Ambassador Lisa, you're so amazing. I can't believe you won't be here next Sunday. Don't make me cry. Nia Song, you rock. What can I say? I just want to encourage our listeners again and all people of African descent. Let's, on this National Loving Day, let's purpose in our heart to love each other. We don't have to like each other, but we have to love each other. It's very, very important. And let's just try to encourage one another. We all face a lot of challenges, you know, in this country, in the diaspora. We don't discuss politics here, and we're not activists. I'm not going to give you examples, but let's just know that we all, our skin color, people judge us by our skin color before they even get to know who we are. The stereotype is real. We've done shows on stereotype, prejudice, discrimination. Let's not discriminate against each other. And my brothers and sisters from Africa, stop calling our brothers and sisters in the diaspora names. I'm not going to dignify it by repeating that names. I've always said that we are one family.
Thank you very much. And Brother Ronald, thank you for honoring this invitation and sitting through the 90 minutes. We appreciate it. As the CEO has said, please always answer when we call. We will always reach out to those who are ours because we want them to contribute to making a difference, to creating that awareness that we so much need to be able to make the difference on the continent of Africa and in the diaspora. Thank you all very much. And please, happy weekend to you and happy Juneteenth coming and happy Father's Day.
Happy Juneteenth.
Bye-bye.
Happy Juneteenth. Thank you.
Happy Father's Day in advance.